everybody, and welcome to the Say Report Jr. I almost totally burped. when I...
5 seconds in, already derailed. Yes, another classic episode.
Oh, welcome to the Say Report Jr., everybody. It's still there. Um... This is a weekly... We are now weekly. This is a weekly podcast with two strangers who have never met in real life. Skype each other and have conversation.
Get to be good friends over whatever the heck we've been doing for the last week. We're going to tighten that up someday, I swear to God.
Someday. Maybe not a day where, I just had some dinner and, beverages. But yes, this is the Say Report Jr. And Devin was like, oh, just as a forewarning or whatever. In one episode, he ate like 2 steak burritos. He was like, you should give a forewarning that you had like a huge shot of sake. And yeah, so there's my forewarning to you folks.
That's why we've introduced the show 3 times and not ourselves yet.
Exactly. So I am Dale Decker. If you listen to the Say Report, I am Devin Decker's younger sister.
And I am Zach Sarowik. And if you listen to the Say Report, I am Sejin's younger brother. I almost said younger sister. Yeah.
Hey. Hopefully you guys already know that, but for new listeners, what a great episode for you to start at episode 6, hopefully. I don't know one of the numbers. So I mean, let's just get right into it, because I have a feeling that this is going to be a heavy-hearted, fully packed, considering what had just happened last week, what
major cultural event has just occurred.
Yes, exactly. So I'm just going to jump right into it. What have you done within the week?
Well, like you said, I participated in this great cultural event. I saw something grand this weekend that everybody is clearly going to be talking about, and that is Kevin James' Never Don't Give Up, his new stand-up special on Netflix.
Oh, I heard that was amazing. I really wanted to watch it. And
for some reason, I don't watch a lot of stand-up specials. For some reason, one of the only ones I actually remember watching years ago was Don't Sweat the Small Stuff, which was one of Kevin James' first ones before he got into movies, basically. Yeah. And all of this is to say, by the way, that Paul Blart should definitely be in Avengers 4.
Dude.
Like that's what I want.
Paul Blart.
This is me kicking off my Paul Blart Avengers 4 campaign.
Get out there and sign the petition that doesn't exist yet.
I would go far as to say hashtag Paul Blart Avengers 4,
yes!
Which I definitely started this weekend as I was watching it and talking to my brother.
That's fantastic.
Oh my God.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That's
yeah.
beautiful.
I don't know why. Like, it's so funny to me because it is some of the like blandest, most inoffensive comedy you can do.
Yeah,
dad. It's dad comedy at its peak, and I love every freaking second of it.
It's so good.
The most controversial thing he said was that people with peanut allergies are annoying.
Exactly.
It was great.
Yeah, I love the Paul Blart movies. Like what movie was it? We went to a drive-in. It was like me and a couple of my other friends from college, and we went to a drive-in, and we saw Paul Blart, and I think it was Guardians of the Galaxy.
That sounds like the best combo of films I've ever heard.
And the only reason why I agreed, I was like, well, guys, we're not, because they were kind of iffy about it. Because Guardians was the second movie.
Okay, I was about to ask, which one of those was the opener and which one was the closer? Because there's one way that works.
If it was the other way around, we would have left. But I hadn't seen Paul Blart 2 yet.
Oh,
so I was like, we're only doing this. We're only doing this if I can see Paul Blart 2. And you guys just need to sit through it. And yeah, so I made them sit through at a drive-in in a cramped car.
God.
Watch Paul Blart 2, and it was fantastic.
The best part of Paul Blart 2 is the fact that Neil McDonough thinks he's in a completely different movie. It's great.
Yeah, I mean,
McDonough's coming in there like, oh yeah, we're doing this like Ocean's 11 style, but we're the bad guys heist movie. And then at some point he accidentally runs into Paul Blart and is like, damn it, I'm in this?
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Oh man, I do like comedy specials, but yeah, that I haven't watched his, but I do love Kevin James.
Yeah, it's
I
like
almost said Kevin Smith.
you get all the great stuff. You get the food allergy jokes. You get like an extended bit on moving sidewalks in airports. An
Oh,
extended bit on
nice.
just moving through an airport on a moving walkway.
That's fantastic.
Like, oh my God, it's so wonderful.
Um,
Ugh.
before we move on, have
That was
you
that's our palate cleanser.
do you have you seen or watch anything of John Mulaney?
I have not. I know he just had a new
So
special come
yeah, so
out.
he just had a new special that came out, and he filmed it at Radio City Musical. Me and two of my friends went and saw the show, and I made one of my friends wait before, because I will not watch the special, and I hope he doesn't watch the special without me, because I want to sit and watch it together and see if it's our show that got taped. Because he had 4 or 5 shows that
Oh,
night.
yeah.
So, but before we went in, we saw cameras. Like, there was one camera, we were in their way, so they asked us to, they were just like, hey guys, we just need to get a shot. So we moved out of
Right.
the way, and they were getting a shot of like the lobby. So I was like, oh my God, if the show that we're seeing is the show on Netflix, I'm going to be so happy.
If the show you saw is like filler during like credits and stuff, that's still awesome. And be like, oh yeah, no, I was in that lobby. This isn't the theater I was in, but I was in that lobby.
Exactly. So I don't know. But
I went to like one concert once where they put like a sign on the door that was like, this may be recorded for like a live CD or something, and I was like, that's no way. There's no way they're doing.
Yeah.
They put that on all the things so that you won't like record what they're doing or something.
Yeah. Oh man.
Okay.
Well, so
let's get into the real meat and potatoes of this episode. So the first thing that we're going to do, spoiler alert, everyone.
That's not
we are going
sound.
There you go, air horns.
Air horns blowing everywhere.
Your sad ambulance noise. Yeah, so we're gonna talk about Avengers. Like, duh. Like, I'm pretty certain everyone knew that was happening. It's the biggest thing going on this week and probably next weekend. We're going to talk about Avengers Infinity War, so we are going to spoil a bunch of stuff.
We're going to spoil the shit out of it.
If you want to know about it, if you haven't seen it yet or you don't want to know about it, just stop listening. We'll understand.
Exactly. We'll even give you like a 5-second buffer. Maybe. I don't know.
Well, I think the best thing to do is you had some concerns about spoilers.
Oh, yes.
Do you have to talk about Well, I guess you probably have to talk about what's being spoiled in order to talk about the spoiler conversation.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. Then everybody.
The thing is, basically
count to 10, everybody, and then leave.
Yeah, pretty much. We'll just
vamp for a little bit here.
Vamp for a little bit about words and hey, yeah, okay, that should be enough time. You should have been able.
Remember, everybody, hashtag Paul Blart Avengers 4. Bye.
Yeah, and follow us on Twitter at sayreportjr. All right.
There we go.
So for the people who stayed, welcome.
Welcome to the spoiler.
I don't know what is going to happen in the next.
We're just
next couple of. It's not even a couple of minutes. We have like an hour left.
Yeah. We'll do what we always do. We'll just kind of roll with wherever the conversation takes us. But yes, let's start with the spoiler crap on the internet.
Oh my God, I am so done. I'm so done with it. It's mainly because I don't know. I understand that memes are a thing in our culture, and I understand that people have a feeling to share these memes because they're funny. And it's also the world that we live in is a very like opinionated world, and you feel like you have to get your opinion out there. That's all fine and good. Not about this movie. I'm sorry. And this is the one movie, and I'm not even like a crazy MCU person. I really enjoy the movies because I find them entertaining. I find them fun. Do I think they're the best movies in the world? No. But, that's just my opinion. There are better things out there, but I still love the MCU. That being said, this movie is the only movie that, like, really you can't spoil for people.
Definitely.
Unless you did what we did or what, like, some other people who are doing it right, you give that that announcement. You give that warning.
Right.
That
Twitter does not have an option yet where you can
exactly.
put like just spoiler and then hide the rest of your tweet. Which
Exactly.
Twitter, there's an idea for
That
you.
is a huge idea. We should sell that. We should sell that tonight. No. Trademark. Spoil block. But it's like, especially when this movie's part of this movie's marketing campaign was specifically no spoilers. Like, there was the hashtag Thanos demand your silence. Half, if not all of the cast did not have a copy of the full script, so they couldn't even spoil it on accident. Like,
Mark Ruffalo and Tom
it's
Holland tried too, and Don
exactly.
Cheadle and Benedict Cumberbatch had to shut that shit down.
Oh yeah,
Those are some of the funniest videos
they're
going around,
fantastic.
by the way.
Oh my god,
It's like Tom Holland doing his like press tour with Benedict Cumberbatch, and every time he opens his mouth, you just see Benedict go,
yeah, exactly.
No.
Yeah, like when it's built into the marketing campaign, that's a no-go. The only thing that you should be saying about this movie, unless you're doing a spoiler review or anything like that, is whether you liked it or didn't like it. End of discussion. That is all you have to say. You don't.
I mean,
oh, go ahead.
No, you first. You don't what?
You don't have to share memes that. Yes, I understand. Like, some of them, it's more you only understand it because you've seen the movie. But if I hadn't seen the movie and I've seen, like, there's one going around where I'm going to spoil Infinity War for you, but not do it in context. And it's like little pictures that, yes, if you've seen the movie, it clicks faster for you. But say you see that, you're just scrolling through and you see that on Facebook and you haven't seen the movie yet for whatever reason. That's another thing that we can get into. And you haven't seen the movie and you're at least interested. If you're someone who can like latch onto a photo and keep it in your memory bank, it's going to just ruin the experience of that ride of the film for you.
Right, because instead of feeling what you should be feeling at that moment in the film, you're instead thinking, "Oh, that's what that was about."
Oh, that's what that. Oh, I see where this is going. Especially with one of the pictures, the last picture on that meme is a person snapping. I'm sorry, but yes, when Gamora first says he can rid half of the world's population or half of the universe's population with the snap of his fingers, you know where it's going. You've seen a movie before. But it's just like, it's slightly different when when you've already seen a picture describing that, and it's like, oh well, why am I here?
Right, because I'll tell you, like my journey with that specific like motif running throughout the movie, because that comes up a lot, and actually I think it came up. And I think it came up I think she did it in Guardians too, didn't she? When she first talked, the like very first Guardians movie, when she talks about Thanos, does she ever say the snap of a finger thing? I feel like that's come up before.
I don't remember that.
But it's very much like it's foreshadowing.
Yeah. Oh,
but
definitely.
What it is it creates this idea in like as I was watching it, as someone who never read any of the Infinity comic in any way. I've never read any of the Infinity comics.
Neither have I, so we're on the same playing field.
So like as someone who literally had no idea what was coming at the end of this movie, I read that foreshadowing as, oh, there's gonna be some like big dramatic thing where they're trying to stop him from snapping. Like that's literally what it was. And what it was and where that came to a head for me as I'm watching it is when they're all trying to pull the gauntlet off of him on Titan.
Yeah, okay.
And I went, okay. And I went, oh, this is the scene they were foreshadowing. Okay, so this is them all trying to do it. Oh, they failed, and he leaves. And that was it. So that was completely out of my mind when 20 minutes later, he actually fucking does it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm like, oh my God.
But so that one really bugged me, because it's like, okay, yeah, even if you haven't, it makes more sense because I've seen the movie, but still. And then there's another one that spoils the scene where Doctor Strange is like, I've seen 14,200,000 and something. I don't remember the exact number, but he's like, right. I've seen this end 14 billion times, and out of one we are successful. The meme was like, Doctor Strange saw the end of Infinity War 14 billion times and didn't spoil it for anybody. Be like Doctor Strange. And it's like,
I did see that one.
It's like, Again, yes, I get it better because I've seen the movie, but it's just that moment, like you're sitting through the movie and you're like, wait, Doctor Strange is he's gonna meditate at some point. Like I know he's gonna do this. Like it hasn't happened yet, so it's coming. It just ruins the experience of it. And then there are even ones now, which yes, they're funny, but there are ones where things are fading away into dust.
Yes. And I will admit, I have liked, possibly retweeted some of those, and I
That's
apologize
fine,
because I wasn't thinking. Because here's the thing: it's Wednesday now. There's definitely a part of me that went like, especially that starting like yesterday, went, well, it's Tuesday now, and the whole world saw it over the weekend.
Exactly. Which brings me up to my other point, but yeah.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, I think that going forward, I think just a general rule for everybody: give it 2 weekends.
Yeah, like
it's opening weekend where people like shows sell out, so people don't get a chance to see it until the second weekend, or like they're waiting for the crowds to die down, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So give it 2 weekends.
Yeah, my thing is that if you really want to go see a movie, like I do my best, and I always see movies on Thursdays because that is when they come out for this preview, because I don't want any spoilers. I don't even, I try to stay away from trailers. I just want to go in with a fresh mind, and it's just, if you really want to see this movie, if you've been like waiting as long as some people have to see this movie, why haven't you seen it already? Your point of like sold out shows and whatnot, but it's like, if you really, really were like, I need to see this movie, there are ways to, make sure and ensure that you've seen it already. So there is that side of the coin, but it's just like, I still see these memes where it's just like, if you had seen that and hadn't seen the movie, you would be livid right now. I have no doubt in my mind that you would just be pissed off, because it's like, well, that's ruined now. Like, it's funny, but come on, I don't know.
let people have that emotional impact before they start laughing it off. Yeah. Okay. So there's that.
So that's the only like real anger I've had towards
so that's
the
spoiler conversation. I had like a list in my head of how we should like segment this, and I'm trying to think of the best way to do it. Let's do the other kind of angry one first, and then we can just end on all the stuff we love about the movie, and we'll feel positive and better.
Yeah, okay.
So
I'm down for that.
So I want to talk about, because the thing is, I want to talk about that New Yorker review that had us both pissed off, but I also want to talk about the fact that there is an almost valid version of that argument that guy didn't make, and I want to do both of those. So if anybody did not see or pay attention to the kind of New Yorker review that everybody was fighting about, it kicked off like a whole argument about the MCU as a whole this weekend.
I caught none of that, which I'm happy about.
It started what I think is a more valid conversation. I just wish it wasn't tied to this crap take that the New Yorker had, which was essentially that he doesn't understand how sequels work.
Exactly.
The New Yorker review basically boiled down to this, that Infinity War doesn't bother introducing all of its characters and just expects you to just already know how they act and all this other stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
Which is what a sequel does.
That's exactly what a sequel does. Yeah. I only read that first paragraph because I'm like, wow, I'm done with you.
It's not much longer than that, and it doesn't go much deeper. Like, it's just like, that's dumb. No one should ever go into, especially, this is not only the fourth Avengers film, this is the end of, we've been told for a decade this was coming. Obvious, like, none of the Avengers films I think work unless you see at least some of the movies before them. Like, this idea that Infinity War would have to spend an hour introducing all of its characters again, dumb.
Well, so part of that, what that reminds me of is when Civil War came out, right? So my mom really wanted to go see Captain America Civil War, right? Because it wasn't Avengers Civil War, right? It was Captain America Civil War.
No, but it was right? Basically the second part to Age of Ultron.
Exactly.
It's basically the second part to Age of Ultron.
But the title is
Captain America. Right.
So if you base it on that, it's like a quote unquote standalone film. It's really not. It's really not.
You can, I think, get away with watching Winter Soldier and then Civil War and still kind of understand some of that.
Yeah. So,
but I think that a lot of that division between Captain America and Iron Man doesn't make as much sense without the events of
Exactly.
Ultron in between.
Exactly. So we went and saw that
So
film. It was me, Devin, my mom, and I don't remember. There was I think my aunt, one of my aunts. But anyways, so we went and like I didn't really love Civil War anyways. I was like, oh, that's a movie, okay. But she like just did not. She was so upset because she was like, this is I was so excited for this movie, and like it did nothing for me because I don't know anything. At that point in the game, I think that is valid. Like I think you should
yes, and
maybe
that's
explain
exactly
a little bit more for the people who are like, "Oh, Captain America and Iron Man, they're fighting. I want to see that." Explain a little bit. It doesn't have to be. It could be one line of dialogue that like kind of sums up the rest of the movies that came before it. That's all you need. Instead, it was nothing. It was just, here's Civil War, everybody. We're just assuming. So at that point in the game, and I get it. At this point in the game, no, you should. If you're seeing Infinity
especially
War,
after Civil War, yeah.
if you're seeing Infinity War, you need to be seeing the other movies before it. I'm sorry. Like,
At least everything that came between Civil War and this, like
exactly. Yeah.
if that, yeah, and that's exactly where I was going. Like where I think that's where you get into the somewhat valid idea of there are people out there who are only half invested in the MCU,
Mm-hmm.
and Infinity War is it's either all or nothing. Like you are invested in this thing or you're not,
Exactly.
which means it doesn't really tailor to people who only saw like
Yeah.
I would argue you don't have to see every movie, but you could probably start going down a list. Like Ant-Man doesn't factor into this at all. Don't get to
No.
see that.
Mm-mm.
I would actually
Still a great
argue
movie, but you don't need to
still
see
a great movie. I mean, that's the thing. There's a lot of these movies that are great that also have not don't need to tie into this. I think you get
Exactly.
enough. I think that well, there is one really good scene in Homecoming that I think really sums up him and Tony's relationship that would make this more emotionally impactful. But at the same time, you don't really need to see Homecoming
Yeah. No.
to see
Not
this
really.
because you get that him and Stark are like familial friends at this
Exactly,
point
yeah.
out of Civil War.
Which if you know
actually
if you know the characters, you can see that too because
right and like you don't really need to see, and this is even more blasphemous, you don't need to see Black Panther to see this movie because most of the events of Black Panther are pretty separate and are just lead up to what he does in Civil War anyway.
Oh, totally. And what Black Panther did really well for this is that there is that line of dialogue that Okoye says. I think it's Okoye, where she's like, when you said we would be opening up Wakanda to the rest of the world, this is not what I thought you meant. That's
Exactly.
the end of Black Panther. There you go.
And you don't need to know that much about M'Baku's character to understand. Like when he walked up to him and says, "Thank you for coming down and fighting with us." Okay,
like,
that's all you need to know about that. So
Yeah.
there is probably someone's going to be
M'Baku's the
smart
best.
enough to figure out exactly which one. Oh my God, he is. Someone's going to figure out the best viewing experience to get you to Infinity War
Mhm.
as fast as possible. But I do understand that there are people out there that I get that argument. I do, and I get that it's frustrating that
Well,
Infinity
yeah.
War can be aggravating for those people.
Yeah, of
But
course.
I just don't understand. Here's the thing about the MCU. MCU is not comic book movies. It is comic movies the same way you have comic books. In that they took the entire
Yes.
format of comic books and just put it on film.
Mhm.
So the idea that this is a bunch of interconnected stories and this is a big comic book meetup.
Yeah.
And there are people that don't like those either. There are people that don't get into comic books because it's such a huge world of things to get into and it's expensive and you got to track things down. I get that. I think it's a little bit easier
Yeah.
to do the MCU stuff, but it's still an investment in time, and I get
Totally.
that. But I think that is a perfectly valid argument. Those are not the people that I am mad at right now. I am more mad at like critics who are like, there was someone who was like, I take every film on its own merits and standalone. It's like you can't decontextualize a sequel. First of all,
Yeah.
you cannot completely decontextualize a sequel, but they have been telling us since Iron Man that these are going to be interconnected movies. You cannot decontextualize them just because that's how you do it with every other movie that comes out.
Exactly.
And I think what it is it sounds really silly because it's Disney and it's Marvel and they're making $11 billion that people don't look at these movies. And like we said, they're not all great. They're not the best movies to come out. And so people look at them, and they're not looking at them as art pieces, essentially.
Yeah, no.
like
Well,
like
that's
there is a specific artistic vision that Marvel brought to this that most, that I think a lot of people are unwilling to give them that in for, because it's Marvel and Disney and billions of dollars. And I think that is just a crime.
yeah.
Because like I don't think anyone's ever going to be able to do this again, or will try. DC already dropped the ball on something like this.
Yeah.
So I think like to take a look at film history at all and be like, look at this decade where these stupid idiots made 20 movies that all came together, 25 by the end of this thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then God knows what they're going to do after Avengers 4. But we've got at least 2 movies plus another Avengers coming out. That's 22 movies altogether.
Oh yeah.
To say they put in billions of dollars, they put in like billions of dollars of investment, got multiple billions of dollars back, created this wild fan base, single-handedly brought Marvel back from bankruptcy. Like, that is something that film history should be looking at as the weirdest art venture ever.
Yeah.
But everybody went, but Disney's behind it. Why do we give a shit? No.
Yeah, exactly.
The
weirdest thing about that too, like, when Avengers came out, I was slightly that person where I'm like, I was looking more at it from a filmmaker, like a film student's point of view, where I'm like, yeah, Avengers, it's okay, but that script is terrible. And like, that was blasphemy for me to say that. But like, people didn't understand that. Like, I still liked the movie.
Yeah.
But it was just like, you can't shame these movies, which is I kind of have a problem with. But now,
yeah, that's a whole other stupid side to all of this, is the gatekeeping that goes
exactly.
into.
But now when I think of these movies, I'm like, that was 2 hours of just pure fun. Like, I don't need to write a paper about this. I just need to know that I had fun, and that's all that matters to me.
Yeah, and like, and again, before we start getting into the parts where we're just gonna gush about this movie for the next like 45 minutes, I especially because I was one of the people fighting all weekend about this. I love these fights, by the way. I know that it sounds like I'm a freaking addict, and I am. I love getting in Twitter fights about this stuff. If you are someone who has like fatigue from these, I get it. And like, I had a friend who was like, her biggest problem has been that every movie feels unresolved, basically, because it's leading into the next one, and it's always the after credit stinger that they made a staple of film at this point. Also is like, we gave you this one story that's like resolved. Here's the end of it. Oh, by the way, here's the prologue to the next one that you're not going to see for months for like a year. And so it's that like unresolved feeling that really gets to people, or it gets them so excited for the next one. And like, that was a risky, stupid move that they made that I think obviously played out in the long run. They just passed $15 billion in profits from the entire MCU.
Oh yeah.
But it also
crazy.
means that there's an entire subset of people who are like, I am outside of what might be the largest club in the universe, and I cannot get in for the life of me, and I hate it. And I get that. I had a friend who, it's so funny because just recently, like, we were talking on Twitter about the fact that like the whole Infinity War, sequel bullshit take, he thought that was really dumb. This is the same friend that after Thor came out, we were sitting in college. I remember very clearly sitting in the office of the college newspaper where we worked. We were watching, either he had just got done watching Thor on like a computer or done watching Hulk or something, turned around, looked me right in the eye and said, "Movies should not be prequels to other movies." And I knew what he meant. He obviously didn't mean like Thor should not be a prequel to Thor 2 to Thor 3. Like,
yes,
no, he meant like
obviously.
Thor should not be a prequel to Iron Man 2.
Yeah.
And I just remember thinking, but it's interesting. Like, that was as much thought as I was putting into it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like the Marvel stands, as they're called, that come out and start like screaming at people for thinking that like Infinity War is inaccessible. It's inaccessible as shit. It is an inaccessible film if you are not prepared for it.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, it is.
And that's what it.
But it's also, we all knew
it.
But I was gonna say, at the same time, it's an inaccessible movie that we all knew was coming 10 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you can only complain so much about that.
Yeah. No.
Now, talk to me about Thanos.
Dude,
wonderful man in the universe.
Oh my god, I hate that I love Thanos, but I love Thanos. I really do. Like he's not wrong, which is
And
the
well, that's the thing. You know what it is
craziest
that
thing
it's that
about that.
he's not wrong because you understand why he thinks he's right. He's
Exactly.
wrong because you can't just destroy the universe. And with the
Obviously.
Infinity Gauntlet, you have the power. You have the power to fix the problem that you think you're seeing in so many ways. But he is too, like, kind of like he's a frat guy. He's a frat guy who
What? That's awesome.
let me follow this.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So for what is essentially an immortal life, his entire thing is I'm going to go to a planet that is extending its resources, and I'm going to kill half the population so that the other half of the population embraces life and knows how to utilize those resources better and understands now why they can't just keep going the way they thought they were going before.
Yeah.
So when he gets the Infinity Gauntlet, he just does that on a universal scale, despite the fact that with the Infinity Gauntlet, he could just make more resources, or he could fix every person in the universe to make them already understand that lesson that he's trying to teach them. But he's just like so locked into his own methodology that he's like, he is a hammer and the universe is a nail, and it was like, oh, here's a thing that lets me hammer all the nails. Bye.
Yeah.
He just does the thing.
Yeah. Oh,
And
man.
that is what makes him great, because it is like he knows exactly what he's doing. He knows that it's going to make people suffer. He's willing to suffer himself
Exactly.
because it would be wrong of me not to suffer along with
like,
you.
It's like it's I don't know, it's so crazy because yeah, you're right. Like there are other ways of doing it, Thanos. You don't have to do what you're doing. But like his goals and whatnot are like it's very modern. Like there is a problem with overpopulation. There is a problem with limited resources. Like everybody wants to be able to help and fix the problem. And he found the easy. It's not even the easiest. But
Actually,
like,
I mean, it's not easy because it took him a long time to get that gauntlet together, but it is the easiest solution once you have the gauntlet.
Once you have the gauntlet. Yeah, exactly. And
Oh.
I don't know. And then we were talking about like how Devin and I were talking about how Marvel villains have like these weird hearts of gold in some sense. And the reason why we're talking about that, I took a quiz on what what 3 Marvel characters you were or whatever, like what combination of Marvel characters you were. And I got Loki, Nebula, and Killmonger.
Oh my god.
So I was like, oh, well,
You have to think about some things when you
this
get
might
that
be
kind of...
problematic. but the description of it was like, oh, you have a heart of gold. Sometimes you want to be left alone. Here it is. Yeah, Loki, Nebula, Killmonger. You're a combo of You're ambitious, career-driven, and headstrong. You march to the beat of your own drum and are constantly striving to be the best version of yourself. While you sometimes have a temper, deep down you have a heart of gold. Which, like, yes, okay. That describes me, I think, pretty well. But then I texted Devin, I was like, does Killmonger have a heart of gold? And he completely, like, brought things that I had forgotten about that happened in Black Panther, like, up. And I was like, oh, yeah, because basically he just wants to help people, and he knows
he does, but he also wants to be worshipped for doing it, and that's really what his big downfall is.
Yes.
Is that it's not just that he wants to do this whole like liberation thing, but then he wants to be credited for it.
Yeah. Well,
which I think is the one thing that really separates him from Thanos. I don't think Thanos does not have a power-driven side to what he's doing.
Yeah. But
which I think is what makes him like really interesting.
But it's also like this thing with like, I don't know. It's all of the reasoning behind the stuff for them is sound in some sense.
It's realistic.
Like,
it
it's
is.
very
You can see
realistic.
someone. You can picture a human being who thinks this way.
Yeah.
Which obviously Thanos not a human being, but still, like you can. I'm sorry, but Thanos is an ultra conservative who thinks the best way to stop overpopulation is to like kill off the poor people. Like he might as well just say that.
But it's not just the poor
he has
people.
That's it. He thinks that he's above that by making it random. and by
Exactly.
not wanting to be
Which
worshipped as a god afterwards. That
exactly.
is this like interesting layer on top of it.
Yeah.
That which is why it is that he thinks he's ending suffering. He thinks what he's doing is ending suffering, and that's his goal. His goal is not to be worshipped as the god that ended suffering, and
All
it's
right.
not to be getting rid of the people who are using up all of the resources. Like it's not like he went wipe out the people who are actually using the most resources.
Mm.
He I think had the literal thought, goodbye half the universe, and snapped his fingers. That's
Yeah,
it.
exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. I see.
And it's like, well,
um
it's like that final scene. He's in the middle of nowhere by
exactly.
himself,
Yeah.
like resting. Like
Mhm.
that's it. He achieved exactly what
What
he
he
wanted to
wanted to
do.
do. Exactly. I don't know. It's just I was like I can't not like him. I can't hate him. Like, and it sucks too cuz like when he quote unquote takes Gamora, I mean he does take Gamora away, but it's not like he's evil towards her. It was more, I don't know. This is going to make me sound insane, but it was like this is too like I'm not going to kill a child kind of thing. You
Except he
know? Like
definitely kills children at random when he wipes out half a population. I always thought that was the one thing I found kind of weird is it was like, oh, here's one I'm looking me in the face. I think that's another thing to it. Maybe that's what it is that he doesn't. Maybe that's like a weird
well,
actual
it's also
human
cuz
layer to him that
she's super strong too. Like
yeah, he sees something in her.
he sees
Yeah.
something in her. But like it's also I don't know, are there other kids on that like I do like you don't really see other kids on that planet.
I mean, we only see one city, though. I mean, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we don't have any. I guess that's one of the things they don't explain to you.
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the most interesting. I keep saying the most interesting. He's an interesting guy, everybody. I'm sorry, I keep repeating that word. Um, you don't. They cut out Thanos' backstory. This was
Yeah.
originally like a 3-hour movie, and they cut out most of Thanos' backstory, which I find really interesting because that means that you only understand Thanos through other people.
Yep.
You have like the few actions he takes in the movie,
Mhm.
killing Gamora, attacking the refugee ship, and then snapping his fingers. Like that's really all he does in that. The rest,
Yeah.
and then and because he doesn't even kill like the Guardians, he just like messes with them till he can get away. So he really only does 3 major things in that whole movie.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
you get like Mantis explaining his thoughts when she
Mhm.
jumps on his head.
Mhm.
You get how Nebula and Gamora have been talking about him
Yeah.
and then he like explains to her at some point, that planet, your home planet is thriving now. So
Yeah.
you only get after effects of Thanos. You understand it through other people, like through how other people view him
Mhm.
and after effects of his actions,
Yeah.
which is just like weirdly like I want to know more about him now because we've seen all of this.
Yeah.
My hope is that actually what they actually did was cut a lot of his backstory and they're going to put that into um, part 4.
Oh yeah.
Like you're going to get a lot of his background in part 4
It better be.
as they ramp up to fixing reality, which
Exactly.
is the assumption also that I'm making.
Yeah. I hope so. I don't know. I just but when he's like, "Have you been back to your planet? Like they're thriving. Like I helped them." It's like, "Oh god." Like, yeah, that's part of it. Like yes, people died, but I don't know. It was just
It worked.
it
It's like that's the
worked.
sad thing is that when it works, you don't want to give him the credit for
Yeah.
it working.
Yeah. But like, yeah.
Ugh.
I don't know. I don't know. It was good. I'm really happy that I liked Thanos at the end of that movie, and I don't care. I don't care that that's the sentence I just said. Like I am.
Ugh.
I stand by it.
So then he gets the gauntlet. He wipes out half the universe,
Yep.
and I noticed something almost immediately after that ended. He left the core Avengers still alive. Not he left. Theoretically, the universe
The
and
universe.
randomness.
Yeah.
But that's when we go into part 4, we're gonna have Captain America, Thor,
Iron
Hulk,
Man,
Iron Man, Black
Black
Widow.
Widow.
Theoretically, Hawkeye is still out there. Like that's gonna be weird when they bring him back. Like it's a big it's like a
Yeah.
big
That. Yeah.
climaxy thing. It's like, oh hey, Hawkeye is back. It's like we forgot about you, dude. But you bring him back, you have the original Avengers and everyone else extra that they've added on.
Yeah.
Is gone.
Exactly. um. Rocket's still
Oh.
there. That makes me super happy. That
Mhm.
Rocket still is
Oh,
part of it. That
makes you happy, but oh my God, Groot.
Groot. Okay.
Watching
So,
him like go after Teen Groot as he was like fading
oh
away.
yeah,
It's,
like that was
oh,
super painful.
heartbreaking.
So the worst part, the thing about the deaths at the end, like, felt nothing about Scarlet Witch. Did not care. I was like, meh,
Oh
okay.
yeah.
I was when Falcon goes, Sam, Falcon, whatever.
Hmm.
That scene was like, whew, okay, that kind of hurt because
Especially because Don Cheadle walks up behind him and is looking
exactly
for
is
him.
looking for him and is like, Sam, where are you? And then faded away. Bucky kind of felt weird. I was like, oh, that sucks. Then it's T'Challa, and I was like, no, okay.
That was super sudden too. Like they barely even like focused on him
Oh
as he
yeah,
was
it's just
disappearing.
his arm that goes away, and I'm like, oof, okay.
And you see it, and it's all in Okoye's face. It is all in Okoye's
Oh
face.
yeah. And then I was like, I 100% thought it was gonna cut back to Shuri, and
Oh yeah.
she was gonna.
I mean,
I was so prepared to scream at the screen, because if I had to watch Shuri die, no, I would be done. Because I love her. She is the best.
So knowing what little I do know about some of the comic stuff, at some point I think Shuri becomes Black Panther,
and I
which
want
means
that
that
to
they
happen.
they are perfectly set up for that for the next movie for her to take over.
It's weird too, because I wanted to know more about her character. It's kind of weird how she becomes Black Panther in the comics, from what I'm remembering. It's like she fights him because she feels like it's her birthright and not his. And that's what happens. Like, she's kind of villainous in a sense. Because
I
she's
bet you there's more leading up to that, because there's also some weird stuff that happens with like T'Challa and Storm are married for a while, and it's like really awkward.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if there's like a point where they're like, man, T'Challa's a freaking idiot. Let's get someone else in here.
But I will be so happy if Shuri becomes Black Panther. Even if it's like for half the movie, I will be okay with it, because I would be ecstatic. It would be the best thing ever.
So here's what I'm thinking. Can I tell you what I think might be the most heartbreaking, but I think best opening to part 4 is, because that ending scene happens so quickly.
Yeah.
That opening of part 4, I'm going to call this shot now and watch me be wrong, is going to be some very sad cover of a pop song, and just as the opening credits are rolling, it's just going to be random people turning to ash.
Oh,
and it's going to be like, here's the fate of everyone else that we didn't tell you about in the last 5 minutes of that movie.
Good. That'd be so good. So we can't. So we have a theory of what the next movie should be.
How the next one opens.
Yes.
It's shots of people dying.
Yep. Oh,
and it's very
God.
sad.
Well, I want it to be something complete. But hold on. Before I go on to that,
okay.
So you see all these people die who I'm like, okay, and then you have to watch Groot die again, and it's like,
Nick.
no.
But
that is when I started
without the possibility
of
of
him
growing
coming back.
back.
Exactly. So that is when my tears started. I was like, nope, that's not okay, because this is a character who I love. And this is a character like duo that I love. And then it's all the Guardians, pretty much, except for Nebula, like, who arguably not really Guardian, but she is, because at the end of the other movie, whatever.
She made I mean,
she's basically a Guardian. But you see all of them who, again, these are characters who I fell in love with. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy was when I was like, okay, I'm in this for the long haul, because these characters are fantastic. And then you have Doctor Strange who is another character. I'm like, oh my God.
And let me say, so I was not a huge Doctor Strange, like the movie, fan. I loved him in this. I thought he was so much better in this than he was in his own movie.
Yeah. Well, because for the whole thing of Doctor Strange, he's a dick. Like, he's just a jerk that entire movie.
And it was great, because this movie he had Tony Stark to bounce off of,
exactly.
And they had some of the best chemistry.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, oh yeah, you want to be a dick? I'll out-dick you. Here, let's go back and forth.
Let's do this.
It's so great, because they both ended up having to like shut each other up in different ways.
Yeah.
I had a friend point out that going back to the whole 14 billion possible endings thing.
Yeah.
He hands the stone over, saying this is the only possible way.
Well, yeah.
He knew what was coming.
Of course
he knew
did.
everything that was about to happen.
Of course he did. Yeah.
that as he's fading away, and it's like it's the only way. It's the only way.
It's
I'm
like we're
sorry,
in
and
the
it's
we're
like,
in the end
oh my
game
God.
now, you know.
Yeah.
Um. So then you have Spider-Man. You have Peter
Oh.
Parker's death, which
Oh my God.
collectively the world agrees is the hardest death to watch because it's
And
just
again,
like
he
he's a
and a
kid.
great in a perfect improv. He
Yeah.
improvised
Yep.
the no.
Yeah, I heard
You know
about
where he
that.
pulled it from? He pulled it from Doctor Who.
Did he really?
It's David Tennant saying I don't want to go.
Yeah,
He-
that's funny.
and he's just like
Can I say something about that improv thing? People
yes.
keep like coming up with theories of why his death is so prolonged. All of your theories are invalid. I'm sorry, but you can't come with any more theories because he
Yeah.
improvised it.
I mean, other
It's
than the
not
fact that
like
it was heartbreaking. I'm
oh
sure it
yeah.
was I'm sure like it's heartbreaking to begin with, and then
Well,
I guarantee you the original script is Tony saying something to him,
yeah, or something like
saying like
that.
don't
Yeah.
go, or
But
like I'm
it's
sorry this
also
happened to you, something like that, and then he improvised that, and they went, that shit breaks your heart way more than
exactly.
anything we could
And
write.
it like I already knew Tom Holland was a really good actor because he's fantastic in The Heart of the Sea. Like I love that movie so much and he's fantastic in it. But like this clinched it where I'm like that just means Tom Holland is like one of the greatest like young actors of our time because if he can bring that much emotion improvising, like come on. What? Come on. That's
And
it's just raw
and it's
talent.
just like, and again, by they're not telling you anything that happens around the rest of the world,
Yeah.
you're left thinking, what the fuck about Aunt May, and what does
Oh
Tony
yeah,
do now?
totally.
Do they does the next movie have any does it is it kicked off with immediate action of all of them trying to get together and fix things, or is there going to be an extended sequence of like people
Other
having
people.
to come to terms with what happened, like
Well,
side characters and all that having to come to
person
terms with what happened?
the person I think of is strictly on Peter Parker's world is Ned. That is who I thought of.
Oh
I'm like
man.
I don't want Ned like to be gone, and I don't think he will. But like that is what I thought of, and then I was like, and Aunt May, and that's even worse. Like
Right, and I like, and
it's
then there's a
just
part of you
it's
that's like,
just
is it
going
worse?
down.
And then there's a question of, is it worse if she survived or if she's gone?
Exactly.
Because think
like,
about Tony having to go to her and tell her what
explain to
happened.
her what the
Because
hell happened.
you only get the
space.
stinger in Homecoming that she knows who he is,
Oh yeah.
which means that like you like how does she react to Tony Stark
Yep.
now? It's gonna
Yep.
be like there has to be a scene for that.
Yeah. It's crazy, but yep. That was the hardest part.
Did you notice, by the way, that like Cap didn't do much either?
I was okay
I think
with
that-
that. I do
yeah,
not.
I think-
I'm gonna say it right now. I don't like Captain America.
It's because you've got no heart. Like,
It's because I have no heart. Wow. I just pleaded about
can
how
you
I
not-
did not want
I
Spider-Man
know.
to die.
Obviously,
and
I like
Ned
how
of all
just-
people.
just all of this emotional thing. It's like you're heartless. Oh, you're heartless.
Here's the thing about the Captain America. I don't know. I like the character. I don't know. I hate him in Civil War. I am
that might, yeah.
against him in Civil War. And I'm like, I don't want you anymore.
I mean, I think it's
the-
perfect that he's not super utilized because he doesn't need to be
Oh,
yet.
so- I'm
all of
so
his stuff is going
happy.
to come with Iron Man in part 2.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing. His entire story is centered around about tearing apart him and Iron Man, and them having to come back together.
Yeah.
There's nothing for him to do with any of the other characters except just roll with it and get stuff done. So I think it's perfect.
I was so on board with the Captain America movies because they're great. They're great movies, just in a general sense. I was like, man, okay, I actually really like you. But then Civil War happened, and I'm like, nope, done. Done with you. Completely and totally done. Like, let's move on, please. One of the reasons why I didn't like Civil War. But anyways, yeah, I was very nervous that it was just going to be a Steve Rogers central film, and I'm very happy it was Tony Stark
Yeah,
instead.
part two
Like
might come that way, but I think part two is going to be much more about him and Tony. So I
Tony,
think
but
they're gonna balance out a little more.
even if part 2 is like, that's where it will redeem itself for me, I believe, with him, because you can't not like feel for the guy now at this point
Yeah.
in time.
So
But
do you want? Do you think? So because obviously they had the big fake out of Tony dying, which didn't
yeah,
happen, and
yep.
we all know that he's been checked out for years on this and is just kind of getting through these. So there's no way that Iron Man's not dead by the end of this.
Yeah.
But do you think Steve also dies or just retires? Because I think that's like how that ends for him. I think his only, because Chris Evans is also kind of done. So
Well,
like,
yeah.
do you think what would be better for him? Do you think it's
No.
give Tony the death and then let Steve like retire?
I don't know. The thing about that, like, this is like endgame stuff, right? I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Like, I think the best thing would possibly be if both of them somehow die. Just because it's just, they're the biggest players.
They are. I was just trying to think of.
Arguably, they're the
Yeah,
biggest players. And it's just, if both of them are gone, somehow that's satisfying enough. Like, if
and
one of
it
them goes.
creates a certain motivation for other characters to step up and stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the good. Like, we'll talk about the best part, which, I mean, it's. I don't know if it's cop out, but for me, the best scene of Civil War is the airport fight, right? So you
Right.
have all those people who are siding with each side, and like what you said, you have the motivations for these people to like now step up and be like, okay, well, it's kind of like, oh, this is gonna be terrible what I'm about to say, but it's kind of like Romeo and Juliet in a sense. The only way that story can end is for them both to die.
I can get with that. See, because my concern is that killing both of them somehow cheapens both deaths. Like killing one of them.
If you
do it right,
it won't.
Yeah.
After the last 3-ish, 4-ish movies that have come out of the MCU, the storytelling of them is like nothing that we've seen before. Thor Ragnarok was fantastic, and Black Panther was fantastic, and this was amazing. The story, it was just so I have faith that they would be able to write the deaths in a totally
In a
organic,
meaningful
way. The characters by now. I have faith that they could do it.
Okay. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm also thinking like knowing again, not that these movies have ever been tied to the comic book stories in a specific way. Like they choose when to go off book all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm just thinking like, I know for a fact that there's at least one version of Captain America where Steve Rogers does, retire and grow old, and Sam Wilson picks up.
Mm-hmm.
Which would be like a great way to move on to the next things after part 4 is like, let Sam be Captain America, let Shuri be Black Panther.
Exactly.
While like T'Challa is just stays being king.
Mm-hmm.
Let I don't know. I mean, they've introduced 5 new teams in like in the Guardians clips because they definitely are planning on at least one of them getting their own movie.
And you say like, let these other people take over. I really like that aspect of. I don't know a lot of it in the comics. I don't read as much as I would like to, or should, or whatever. But I really like that. Jane Foster becomes Thor. I like that. I like that you have Kate Bishop and all these characters who just like take the guys and just take over the character, because you still need heroes in this world.
Yeah, and like Iron Man now, there's Iron Man right now is Riri Williams, is this like young black woman is Iron Man.
Oh yeah, she's
and
Ironheart.
So like
yes,
exactly,
super cool.
So like you have all of these options like with this first cast gone. It's like you've had them for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Bring in Like Tom Holland is like a perfect bridge to that.
Oh
Bring
yeah,
in
totally.
someone that a lot of people don't know,
Yep.
fantastic young,
Mhm.
like ready to go actors who are like, yes, this could be, I could do this from 20 to 30 and then like
And
move
move
on
on.
again and move
Yeah.
on.
Exactly. Exactly. It would be and adding to like MCU history lesson of the day, like that just adds to that conversation of look at what this look at what this did. Look at
Right,
how it
because you're
kept
talking about
itself going.
if they can make the right dismount after part 4 and almost basically reset everything and you have new people
Mhm.
playing like established characters and all this other stuff, you have a new in for people.
Oh yeah,
You
totally.
have like a
Yeah.
whole new in for people, a whole new
And then
generation of
it's
people
their
and it
story and yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. It would be that is now what I damn it, Zach! Like that is
Now
what
you know,
I
you know
want
what
to
you want.
happen.
Yeah. Oh, I've been thinking
It's
about this
not
for a
going
long
to.
time. I've been
Well,
thinking
it's
about
like
this for a long time.
that's like Devin and I were talking, and we're like, we want the next movie to be how they introduce multiverses, and because they totally could. We already know that that different dimensions exist because of Doctor Strange, and there's a
Exactly.
mirror dimension where everybody who lived in this movie, yeah, now they're dead. and and the people who died in this movie, they're alive and they have to come together somehow with the help of Doctor Strange. And now it's like and Thanos has no idea this is happening and he has to deal with that.
Oh man.
Like
Yeah, that's
I really like your idea of the opening for the next part. I want it to be so badly do I want it to be the opening of Thor coming down, throwing the axe into Thanos, Thanos going, "You should have aimed for the head," snapping his fingers, and then Thor fades away. That is how I want it to happen. That is how I want it to open so badly. And I know it's not going to
oh man.
because people would just be so confused and it would be so much fun for me.
Okay. So, I we've gushed enough. We talked about what we want. We've talked about the criticism around it. I think this is perfect. This is a perfect conversation about it.
Perfect.
I want to say, I want to do one last thing, but before we get to that, I want to throw out my own theory. Or anybody that has been listening to the Say Report, our senior podcast, our sister podcast. I don't even know what we're calling it anymore.
Senior sister podcast.
Devin's been trying to figure out how Agents of Shield is going to end. And I
Oh,
want to throw
yeah.
out my own theory about that. I don't know if he told you what I sent him.
No, he's told
but
me
has,
his
has he
theory.
explained to you? Okay, so you know
Yes.
where Agents of Shield is. Those of you who either haven't listened to them or just need a refresher, spoilers for Agents of Shield itself. It's a spoiler for me because I'm not even there yet. I'm still in season 3. But the Agents of Shield looks like it's coming to an end. It always does, but God
Yeah.
knows what they're going to do with it. I cannot believe that, by the way, that they have 5 seasons and Agent Carter got 2. So mad about that.
Yeah, I don't watch the Marvel TV shows for that reason.
Yeah, I mean the 2 seasons of Peggy are excellent. I'm just mad that they didn't keep going.
Yeah.
So there's a whole theory idea of Coulson's going to die again at the end of season 5, possibility of it all being a dream, all of that. So first off, you have the possibility that they're just living in an alternate timeline that gets rewritten by Thanos and they like by whatever they fix in part 4. More importantly, though, my theory is that Coulson does die because he's one of the people that turns to ash, and I think that what happens.
Oh.
My theory is that the final episode of the final episodes of Agents of Shield are their reaction in the lead up to Infinity War, because they're always unfortunately kept out of it because they have to stay secret.
Yeah.
But they're in this lead up to Infinity War, and the literal final scene is exactly when Thanos snaps his fingers, and so Coulson and a bunch of them turn to dust, and then because that will theoretically end this year because season 5's airing right now.
Yep.
That ends this year, and then they can be written into part 4 when they rewrite the history.
Mm-hmm. Dude, okay, that would be so satisfying. I don't even watch the show, and that would be so satisfying.
It doesn't have to all be a dream. It just turns out, no, it's not a dream. It's all real. Everyone's happy, and then they turn to dust.
Yep. You know what? A thing on that. Okay. It's like it's a theory for, it hasn't even come out yet, but Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Mm-hmm.
I want at the end of that movie, I want Scott to fade. I want him. I want Ant-Man to be one of the people because it's supposed to be. It's like in the middle kind of thing,
It's
right?
yeah. It's
Like
also yes. It is previous to this. Just like
so
when Captain
that's
Marvel comes out, that will take place in the
yeah.
90s.
Yep, yeah. Like that is how I want that to happen because
No, that's a fantastic. That would be
it would
fantastic,
be so good.
especially because then Wasp becomes the audience surrogate the way that Bruce was in this
Yep.
one. I love, by the way, that Bruce is everybody who didn't watch the last 6 Marvel movies. It's like
Not
everything is
me.
confusing him. He doesn't understand Civil War. He doesn't
Yep.
understand.
Yep.
He doesn't.
You guys
It's
broke up like the
so great.
Beatles? That was
Yeah,
good. You guys broke
so
up like the
good.
Beatles?
He
Is
is
that
so
what he
good. He's
says?
like, yeah, we have to go get Steve, and he's like, we don't talk to Steve anymore. It's like, wait, what? Who doesn't talk to Steve?
Why aren't you guys talking? Yeah, that was great. That was so
yeah.
good.
So, but you bring the Wasp into it, and she becomes that character because I mean, they might as well be putting a flashing sign on it by putting that scene in the preview where he apologizes for her not showing up in Civil War. There's a
I
scene.
haven't seen any.
Oh, you haven't seen the trailer.
I
Sorry.
haven't seen any trailers for Ant-Man.
Quick, very, very,
So
very minor spoiler. Like again, in the trailer, like
yeah, that's
there's a
fine.
whole conversation that I think is supposed to be playing into what their relationship is now,
And
where
who knows?
Scott does say to her I'm sorry I didn't invite you to the big airport fight,
Yeah.
basically. Like
Well, and who knows? Maybe that's not even going to be in the movie because that's how
it's
Marvel
entirely
trailers are now.
yeah, entirely true. Okay.
Oh my
So,
god.
very quickly, I want to run through some of the best scenes in this movie, and that'll be a great wrap up of things that just make me happy.
Are we both doing this? Because
I think,
can do
yeah.
it. Oh,
Got some?
totally.
I got
Cool.
some.
I
I'll tell
got
you what
some.
okay, so my first one is Bucky and Rocket. That shot where he just picks up Rocket and spins while he shoots the guns.
Yeah.
Especially because here's my favorite part to all of that. Thor shows up with a tree man and a talking raccoon, and Steve and Bucky go, okay, let's get in the fight. No questions asked. I am Groot. I am Steve Rogers. Greatest line.
Oh, yeah.
One of the greatest lines in that movie. And they just roll with it. It's like,
Exactly.
we don't have time to deal with whatever the hell this is right now.
Yep.
And Bucky just scoops up Rocket.
Yeah. So good.
Okay, you got one?
Agreed. Oh
Yeah.
man, I really, really, really love the everything with Thor, Rocket, and Groot. Love it.
Yeah,
Because
they have a great dynamic.
that dynamic is so good, and I love like one of my favorite little like moments between them is when Thor's like explain. I don't know how to say the Forge's name, but when he's like, so we have to go there, and Rocket's like, that's real. I need to go with you, and then he's like, well, come on, little rabbit, and Rocket is
Little
like,
rabbit.
and Rocket's like, well, I have to check with the captain. Oh wait, that's me. Let's go. It was so good. Like the fact that he just ran with that Thor not
Yes.
understanding. Like
Like using Thor's
so
own
good.
dumb bro stupidity against him. Like,
and the Forge scene, the Forge sequence,
oh my
like
God.
that whole part of that movie is amazing.
especially
It's
because
brilliant.
especially because they don't even mention the fact that they are playing with the idea of what a dwarf is.
Yeah,
They're
exactly.
like, oh, like yeah,
Yes.
the dwarves run the forge. Okay, we all know that from
So
fantasy.
good.
Oh, but by the way, they're 20 feet
Feet
tall.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my god. And then you have like the twitch of the hand, like when Groot is like, I need to help. I need to put my game down and become the handle for this axe. Like that was so good too, because it's like he's still sacrificing even though he's a teenager now, and it's just like, Groot,
Oh,
I
man.
love you.
And then first off, when it is a crime that when Thor shows up on the battlefield in Wakanda that you do not get a stinger of Immigrant Song. I was waiting for it. Like I was waiting for like when he shows up on the battlefield, there was a part of my mind that went, we're going to start getting freaking rock music now. And of
Yep.
course, no, it's all the orchestral stuff they always do. But there was like, I just wanted so badly for him to just like touch down with them on his shoulders. And all you just get is, just
Yep.
that. That's all I needed.
It would have
Just
been
that.
so good.
It would have been like the perfect shot. But the whole fight on Titan, where they're bouncing through the portals,
Oh, yep.
is so well choreographed. So one of my biggest problems with Age of Ultron is that it is so blurry because they wanted everything flying in your face. That was the height of their 3D-ness.
Yep.
And so everything is spinning and everything, you can't tell what's going on, and they want stuff
you can't
blurry
keep track
and
of it.
flying in your face. You can't keep track of it. This was so well choreographed. It's just like, even when like you've got people like it's in dampened colors because everything is like red and orange. Everybody on that like crew wears red and orange, like Peter Quill.
Yeah.
Rocket's got a red vest. Not Thor, Iron Man. Strange's cat. Yeah, Strange's cape.
Cloak
Everybody has the same.
As that is what Benedict Cumberbatch has been doing to people when they call it a cape. He is so adamant.
And so,
it's great.
But like the fact that everybody is similarly colored and you can still tell everybody is, and you can follow everything along so well. That was so well done, especially for being mostly green screen.
Yeah.
And God knows what they were bouncing around on Thanos.
Oh,
like,
yeah, seriously.
Clearly it was Josh Brolin standing there with dots on his face. But Quill just middle finger into the backflip into the portal. Perfect shot for him.
Yep.
Oh God, it made me it was so good. Do you have anything else on Infinity War before we're done?
No. I'm very happy. I was really afraid that I was gonna go into it and come out feeling the same way I felt at the end of Civil War. And I'm so happy that I'm not. I'm so happy that I'm on the train of like this was super fun and done really, really well.
Yeah. After Black Panther, I was like really concerned because I felt so much nothing.
Yeah.
Like seeing trailers for this, and like Black Panther was like this was so like it was colorful and well done, and acting is fantastic, and that just energy carried over into this in a way that was just great.
Yeah, I felt nothing for Infinity War until I saw a trailer before Ready Player One, and I was like, this is just gonna be a movie, and it's gonna happen, and we're gonna let it happen, but then it was like so much better than I expected it to be.
Ugh.
So.
That feels cathartic. I've been like between the fighting on the internet and then just like kind of coming down from. I saw this thing on Thursday. It's gonna be a week tomorrow since I saw it, and I'm still like just like coming down from it. This is good. Now I feel like I can not talk about it for a while. Just,
me too. We got it off our chest. Well, it's like I kept wanting to text you and be like, "What about this?" And I'm like, "Save it for the save it for what? Save it." It's like, oh, but I just want to talk about it.
Oh man.
No, I totally agree. Well, so I hope you enjoyed this episode of Infinity War spoilers.
Yeah, I hope everybody kept track of everything we predicted so they can tell us we're wrong here.
Hey, and if you disagree with us in anything that we said, why don't you tweet us at sayreportjr, or you can just tweet us in general and just say hi. That's fine too.
Absolutely. Yeah. Actually, if I have no idea. I have no idea how the actual algorithms work on iTunes. But if you want to subscribe and rate and review us and all that, shout us out on Twitter and let us know, and we'll thank you.
Exactly.
And like the Say Report Junior Twitter feed will probably follow you back. But otherwise, I am at Zerwisky. If you want to, either yell at me for not ever reading the comics, or just tell me I'm wrong, or to also set off hashtag Paul Blart Avengers 4. All of that. Follow me at Zerwisky.
I would love that so much. Why am I doubling? Okay, and I am at Dale's Brain on Twitter if you want to tweet me and say hi, and if you want to, yell at me for liking Thanos. I don't know. I don't know.
I think a lot of people.
You can yell at me. That's what you can yell at me for. You can yell at me for not really digging Captain America at this point in time. But I am hopeful that will change with the next part of Infinity War. But yeah.
All right.
So,
cool.
And if you don't, you should go over and listen to our older siblings podcast, our sister podcast, if you will, which is definitely going to become that. Like, that is now the name of it. Check out the Say Report. They also talked about Infinity War. I believe they did a before and after kind of thing.
Yes, they did a very special special episode. So that was very good.
So go ahead and check out what they had to think, what they have to think about the movie. But yeah, until next week, I've been Dale Decker.
And I've been Zach Sarowik.
Enjoy!
Bye.
Thank you for listening to The Say Report with your hosts Dale Decker and Zach Sarowik. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.